Lesson 5.6 Solving Percent Problems is today's lesson from chapter 5. Again, one of the most important lessons, and the concept you will also again do in 7th grade. Okay, always write the percent as a fraction. This is so that it's easier to solve this type of fractions. And using the following format is also going to help you. I always try to keep this in my mind. This ratio, part over whole, equals the percent, the number that they give you, over the 100. So this is the percent number that they give you, over 100. And then you'll see that there are two words that are used often, which is and of. For now, just remember that the is goes with the part and the of goes with the whole. We'll talk about it in a minute later. Okay, finding the percent of a number. I also want you to estimate what the answer is going to be in your head, just so it's a quick check for you. All right, what's 90% of 20? Again, write it as part over whole and percent over 100. In this case, it is 90 over 100. That's my percent fraction, and of the 20 is the whole, so I need the 20 in the denominator. I need to find out what this number is. Okay, and now I know that 100 is divided by 5 to get the 20, so equivalent fractions, I do the same. I end up with an answer of 18 because 5 goes into 90 18 times. So 90% of 20 is 18. That's my final answer. Let's do the next problem. In this case, they are asking me for 15% of 20. So I know that my answer is going to be less than 4 because fourth or 25% of 20. So that's how I'm going to check in my head. Let's take a look. Again, my percent fraction, 15 over 100, is equal to 20. I know of means the whole, so 20 is my whole, and 20 is the whole, and in the top I have my missing number. Let's figure it out. Again, divide by 5, so divide by 5, and the answer ends up to be a 3. So 15% of 20 is 3. I need you to give your answers this way, not just give me the missing. Let's move on to the last question. Now this is a little bit tricky of the lot, so let's set this up. I have 175 over 100, again because that's the percent fraction. Of is the whole, so I have equals 54. Now one thing you notice is that really 54 doesn't have a multiple of 100, so in this case I'm going to set up a table, and I'm going to do it right here, up, and then I'm going to first find it out for 1 because we've done that before. Find it out for 1, and then once I find it out for 1%, then I can find out for any number of percent that I want. So that's how I'm going to set it up. 175 over 100. So in order to find it for 1%, I'm going to divide this by 100, also divide this by 100. I end up with 1 here and 1.75 here. Now remember, I need it out of 54, so I'm going to multiply this with 54. If I do that, I have to multiply this also with 54, and I end up with 94.5. So my final answer is 175% of 54 is 94.5. Okay, let's move on, and the next piece of the lesson is to find the whole. It's the same thing, but depends on where we plug in the numbers. Again, the same format is what we are going to use. Part over whole, percent over 100. In this case though, this is still 60 over 100, but the is, remember, the is the part, and that you have to decide. You have to read the problem and sort of figure it out. So in this case, that becomes the 42, and then I have the missing number, which is the whole. Okay, now let's figure it out. I know that there is no multiple of 60 in 42, but I also know that 6 has a multiple of 42. So how can I make this into a 6? I'm going to divide it by 10. If I do that, I'm going to divide this by 10. Now I end up with a 6/10. I hope you followed that piece of it. Now make it equivalent to 42 over your whatever this answer is. So 6 times 7 is 42 times 7. The answer is 70. So 42 is 60% of 70, and that's how you give the final answer. Let's look at the next one. They're asking us for what is 140% of what number is 126. So let's go ahead and figure this out. Again, I have a percent fraction, 140 over 100, and they're asking me for 126, and I have to figure out the whole. In this case, I know that just like before, I know that 140 is not a multiple of 126, but I know my times tables. I'm going to reduce this by 10. Again, all you have to do is guess and check. That's all you're doing. So I'm going to divide this by 10, and I end up with a 14/10, which is equal to 126 over the missing number that I have. I know that 14 times, I think, and let's go ahead and figure it out. I think it's 9. 14 times 9. Let's check here quickly. 14 times 9. 9 times 4, 36. 9 times 1, 9. 10, 11, 12. Yes. So times 9 times 9. The denominator is 90. So the final answer is that 126 is 140% of 90. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do a few of the story problems. This is where the application part of percents comes in. If we do a whole lot of 60% of what number, or 60% of 70 is what number, things like that. But this is the, again, the application part. This is where you go to the malls and find the sale prices and stuff. Okay, they're saying that we are using coupons and we are spending $135, which is only 75% of the total price. They're asking us how much we would have spent if we had not used the coupons. That means that I would have spent more. So that becomes my whole. I've spent only a part of the whole. So again, part over whole, and I have the percent over 100 fraction. Let's go ahead and figure this out. 75%, so 75 over 100. The part in this case is 135. I need to figure this out. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this fraction. Again, it's guess and check. Again, I'm looking at what numbers give me compatible numbers that I could do, or are multiples of the 135. So 3/4 and 135 over something. So go ahead and figure out. Use your divisibility rules. Does 3 go into 135? I believe so. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, 9 is a multiple of 3. Okay, so 3 times 45, if you figure that out, and times 45. So 4 times 45 is 180. So the actual bill was $180. So I would have spent $180 without coupons. So again, remember, you always give your final answer for a story problem as a complete sentence. Let's finish the last problem. In this case, boys and girls, they've given us or they're asking us about the length and width of a rectangle. And in this case, what I want you to do is, I sort of forgot to write this piece in, so write this in, because without this piece of information you wouldn't be able to solve the problem. It says the length of the room is 15 feet. You have to have this piece of information. Okay, let's figure it out. 80% of its length, so that's my percent fraction, 80 over 100. The length is the whole because 80 is the part of it, so I have the 15 in the bottom here in the denominator, and I'm going to figure this out just like before. Find it, and I'm going to go ahead and find it out of 1. So I'm going to make the table and do this. So this is the part, this is the whole. So 80 over 100, I'm going to divide it by 100, so I'm going to get the 1 here and 0.8 here, and I need times 15, so do the times 15 in both cases, and you end up with 12. So the width of the room is 12 feet. Okay, go ahead and try the rest of the problems, and I'll see you next class.